Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios, brought to you by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. If you're just joining us, our guest on the other line is Julie Joyner, who is a community manager with the Wood Lake Community Association in Chesterfield County. Is that correct, Julie?
That's correct.
And that's in Virginia. The reason we're talking to Julie is because there is a new process that is in place now where the state said if you have a complaint, you need to go to the association first to try and deal with this before you even register it with the ombudsman office, which is given the task to try and to monitor HOAs in the state of Virginia. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about this, what it is and what it's not. I got to imagine with most of the calls, being in this industry for 27 years, and most of the calls you get from people in a homeowner association, that ombudsman office could get all kinds of calls like, I don't like my neighbor, their stereo's too loud. What are you going to do about it? Are those the kind of issues we're talking about that the state is dealing with?
Well, overall, it's not intended to be that way. They've required associations to develop a policy to allow a member of the association or any citizen to make a complaint about the manner in which the association is operating.
So we're talking more about protocol and policy as opposed to people's disagreements with specific rules and regulations.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's intended to address situations where the association is not acting in accordance with the law or with the association's governing documents.
Give me an example of a common one that they would be hearing about.
They might be hearing that the board is not holding open meetings, so they're not allowing me to come to the board meetings and observe the decisions that are being made. And that would be a valid complaint because the Virginia law requires that boards have open meetings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing here in Minnesota. There are other requirements, I would imagine, things like the disclosure of information. Homeowners are allowed by state statute the ability to be able to get financial statements, to get copies of minutes of previous board meetings and that type of thing.
Correct.
Yeah. And so those are the kinds of things that they are dealing with. But the process says that they need to first try to formally go to the association. How do they do that before making the complaint?
Well, in our policy that the board is getting ready to adopt, they're required to make a complaint to the association in writing and provide a description of the facts relevant to the complaint, any documentation, references to what law or part of the governing documents that the association would be violating, and a description of what kind of action or resolution the complainant would like to see.
So the person who has the complaint, they need to first put this in writing and be able to show that they have made an attempt to trying to present that to the board.
Yes, and we are required to, per our policy, to provide acknowledgement of a receipt of the complaint and of a hearing date. So when they would be able to come and talk to the board in person and present any additional information. And that way, then if there's additional information that that is needed, we don't know what you're talking about, or whatever that might be, we can ask for that.
Well, it allows things to be focused on something specific instead of it being an emotional appeal that someone just has.
Right.
I got to tell you, Julia, from our vantage point here in Minnesota, and I know being involved with CAI, and a lot of my colleagues in the same industry too, the associations that we're connected with, that's not a problem or an issue. A lot of associations that are professionally managed do have those kinds of reminders and procedures and policies already in place, recommended by the management company that they're working with, so that people have a sense that they are being heard and that things are being considered at the association level. Where is this really a problem or an issue, do you think?
I would think in the smaller associations that are self-managed and you have volunteer boards that change over time and not a consistent manager in place who's helping to guide them and provide all that expertise about what the law requires. So typically, I think a lot of the complaints would come about because the mistakes that are being made are really inadvertent and not intentional. It's done more out of we didn't know.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think if there are mistakes that are made in an association, part of that is just because you're dealing with human beings, and there is just a tendency we all have. We're not perfect. We're going to forget. We're going to not realize certain things. We're not going to be as knowledgeable. In the number of years that you've been managing, do you sense in the industry that the expectations of homeowners and of people are becoming more heightened, and that bar is being raised higher and higher year after year?
Yes, and I think that's reflected in the changes that are being made to the law every year, because one of the more recent changes to the Virginia law is that there are designations required and certifications for professional managers, and that was never the case in the past. So I think the industry is responding to the general trend that you need skilled professionals helping to manage and helping to provide guidance to the volunteers and the residents.
How do you have an idea or a sense of how big the Ombudsman office is in the state of Virginia where you live?
It's quite small. There is an ombudsman and I think a couple of other people who work in that office, but it's a pretty limited part of the overall department.
So we're talking about just a handful of people, really, that are handling complaints. It looks like, according to this news article, it said that last year, by the end of November, the Ombudsman's office had received over 1,200 phone calls, another equal amount of emails, but were able to resolve only 258 complaints. Does that sound about right? What are you hearing from other folks who have gone through that process and have used the Ombudsman office?
Well, that I know of, Woodlake has not had any complaints, which is good. But I think that a lot of the complaints that are being made are not about things that the Ombudsman office would actually govern or oversee.
Yeah.
So more people calling because they don't like their neighbor, or they want to paint their house purple, and the
Yeah.
association won't let them.
Sure. So, like you said before, probably a good number of these calls, these 2,400 communications, a lot of them are people who have a wrong idea. Again, the state is interested only in the items that deal with policy and protocol with an association and being able to deal with homeowners according to the state statute and the governing documents, right?
Correct.